And joining me here today is Matt Maynard from Asana, who's going to be helping share some really, really awesome insights with you. Matt, I'll quickly pass it over to you to introduce yourself and Asana.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me today, Evan. My name is Matt Maynard. I lead brand and advertising at Asana. Before this, I've worked for many different companies of many different sizes, from American Airlines to McKesson. Really excited to talk to you today about Asana, though, and how it fits into this. If you don't mind going to the next slide. A little bit about us, if you're not familiar, we are that leading platform for coordinating work between humans, but also now with AI. And we're trusted by many organizations of many different sizes who use us for goal setting, project management, workflows at scale, and so much more. And I'll tell you much more about that today.
Amazing, amazing. Thanks so much, Matt. So we're going to kick things off with our first little section here today and talk about from proposal to payment and the power of a smooth start. So every client or client customer interaction at the beginning of a new or prospective working relationship is one of the most important kind of little times in a relationship. And so it's really important to get it right. And I really want to emphasize that. And to me, what does that mean? What's the most important piece? It starts with a great proposal. And I use the word proposal, and that can mean a lot of different things. But in essence, a proposal is me saying to a prospective client or customer, would you like to work with me? And it's their opportunity to say yes or no. So it can take a lot of different formats, right? Like that could just be a phone conversation. It could be a Zoom meeting, an email exchange. It could be some sort of PDF I may build out and send to someone. Or like what we'll kind of get to, it could also be like a full automated, proposal software. Like that's what we do at Ignition. So kind of a platform to be able to build that out. With all those different ways of doing about a proposal, there's a few kind of minimum recommendations that I would suggest you kind of implement or at least think about if you're trying to work smarter and get paid faster. And I base that off of the conversations I have with agencies and all the different businesses that I've had the chance to work with. So what goes into a good proposal process? So first things first, first impressions, right? It needs to be a professional proposal that can convert people. That means it looks professional. It's presented in a nice structural way. It's timely, like you can get it to the client in an efficient, quick way. It needs to be a scalable and repeatable process. That's something people often forget. And importantly, I need to make it really easy for the client to say yes. It's really great if I can give them a million things, but if they don't know how to say yes and agree to this stuff, you're kind of lost. So remember, these are your first impressions. This is your opportunity to present yourself, your business, your services. This is what's going to guide your prospective client or customer, whether or not to decide if they want to work with you. So if your proposal is unprofessional, your clients are going to likely start to assume that the work you do might also be that. If your proposal takes forever to be sent to the client, let's say it looks great, but it takes 2 weeks before they even get anything on paper, your clients are likely going to start to assume that the work you deliver might also take some time or more time than expected to get done. And you kind of don't want those things. It starts to devalue the work that you do. And importantly as well, if you have options or choices the client might need to make as they start doing work with you, think about packages in your things or different add-ons or just additional services. How do the clients, decide what they want? How do they tell you what they want? This can be more complicated than sometimes you think. And then importantly as well, next section, you need to have a proposal that helps manage your scope and provides client clarity. So that means having really well-defined services, deliverables, and clear-cut client expectations in your proposal. Clear and transparent pricing and payment terms also crucial. And like I mentioned before, a really easy way for the client to say yes. Ideally also in a legally binding way so that you can start work without risk of, something fizzling out and doing work that you're not going to get paid for. So on top of being well presented and having a nice looking proposal, the proposal needs to have substance, so it's your opportunity to set clear expectations with the services. It's going to protect you, your time, and your value. And as well, if like I mentioned before, if you have different services or packages, this is how you're going to define what you're going to do, how much it's going to cost, how and when the client is going to pay you. Sometimes it can be an instinct from a lot of agencies to be a little shy about prices, not want to have that conversation right away, not want to scare people away. I can promise you that's only going to come back to bite you a little bit later. You need to have those conversations up front so that when it comes time to send an invoice or come time to get paid, there's no questions about what the dollar amount is supposed to be. Be confident in the services you provide and the prices that you're going to apply to them. Another thing to think about as well, if you're trying to look to modernize your agency, maybe you've at an agency that needs a little bit of an overhaul or an uplift, something like moving away from an hourly model into a value-based model can be a really, really advantageous way to really improve the value of the services you're providing. But if you're going to do something like that, you best believe you need to be very clearly define what your services are. If someone agrees to pay you $5,000 a month, what are they paying you for? And make it very, very clear. And then as well, like I kind of mentioned earlier, many businesses that I work with, they often like to present multiple options. So, different packages, different tiers of service. But again, those need to be very clearly defined. What makes a gold client different than a silver client? Can you make very clear distinctions? Because if they're a little shaky, it's going to cause you some problems down the line. And another aspect of the proposal process that I often think gets overlooked is whether or not you've actually streamlined the onboarding and payment collection process. So what I implore you to kind of consider is, are you collecting payment details, at the time a client is signing an agreement or agreeing to do work with you? When they do say yes, are they also agreeing to pay you, or are they just saying, yes, start the work and we'll worry about payment later? That can get a little bit messy. Are you making it as easy as possible for your clients to pay you? Like, do you give them payment options? Do you take credit card? Do you take ACH? Do you not even tell the client how to pay you and hope they figure it out later? It can obviously be different. Also, as well, is this process scalable for onboarding? Are you leveraging technology like videos and stuff like that to communicate efficiently from getting a client from that proposal into the work? And then again, like I mentioned, are you establishing really good billing schedules, clear billing schedules that are, nice and clear so the client can not only pay you now, but also schedule the payments that they're going to be making further down the line? I can't tell you the amount of businesses I've worked with who actually have like no shortage of prospective customers. They're really good at investing in marketing. They're really good at capturing referrals from the customers that are doing great work with already, but they aren't really efficient enough to actually convert those customers in any sort of scalable way. If one customer comes in their door, they can, everyone on the team can give their attention to it, and they can probably close that one deal. But the second 3 or 4 come in, it starts to be slow. You don't get a proposal out to someone for 2 weeks. You sign someone up and start doing work, but never got paid for the work, and it creates a whole mess. So again, can you onboard one client? Can you onboard 3? Can you onboard 5? Can you onboard 20? Depending what your goals are, you best be prepared to onboard a whole bunch of people in an efficient way. And again, I know lots of people who have no problems with customers agreeing to do work, but again, not sure how they're going to get paid in a scalable way. So if you're one of those firms where you do the work, and then afterwards you generate an invoice, then you send it out to the client, and you hope you get paid sometime after that, I can promise you there is a better way of operating. Or maybe you hear that and you say, well, I'm fine. I never start work until I get paid. That's great, but have you considered, is that process as easy as possible for the client? Is it easy for them to pay you? Is it easy for you to then manage those payments after they come in? I talk to someone all the time who says, people all the time are like, oh, I get paid by Venmo. My clients just send me payments on Venmo. Really easy for the client to pay me. Have you considered how complicated that makes your bookkeeping afterwards when you have a bunch of different miscellaneous Venmo payments in your bank account? Maybe you don't do your firm's book or your agency's bookkeeping, so it doesn't seem like a big deal, but I can promise you it's a big mess on the backside, and we might as well be getting paid by check at that point. So with some of those takeaways and some of those key aspects I wanted to highlight there with the proposal process, let's see what that actually kind of can look like from the client's perspective. So I built a proposal in Ignition to visualize. Ignition's what I know best, so I thought it would be the most appropriate. But I want you to know that you can take these lessons and apply some of these key aspects into any process that you have, any tools that you're implementing. Really, this is mostly just an example for you all. So in Ignition, we create digital proposals that are kind of full client experiences, and it typically starts with an email. So this is an email that a client, let's put ourselves in the client's shoes. they have now received an email. We've had a conversation and I want to present them and make a proposal for them. So it starts off with an email with a little bit of information, and through that, they can kind of click on the button and view the proposal. This proposal has a little custom landing page that I've built, my team has built out, that allows them to kind of share a lot about the firm, meet us, meet the team, a little bit about our packages, that sort of stuff that you would want to have. And through that, they click through and kind of get into the meat and potatoes of the proposal itself. So in my proposal, like I mentioned, I find it always good to leverage videos. So I want to introduce the client to the team. I want to introduce them to me because that's kind of also what they're paying for. So I have a little introduction video in here, as well as a little cover page kind of talking about the proposal. This would be probably leading off of maybe conversations I might have had on the phone or over a call previously. In this proposal, like I alluded to earlier, I presented some packages. So I have a couple different levels. I have my basic, pro, and growth package. These are kind of the main buckets that I have my clients typically fit into. And I want you to pay attention to a couple kind of key aspects here. Like I mentioned, everything is very clearly articulated in terms of quantifiable. So like I mentioned, what's the difference between level 2 and level 3? Oh, I can see it's a specific number of campaign activities in this example. Maybe it's the frequency of meetings between the different levels of service. So I really want the client to understand if they are going to make a selection and they can pick, they know what they're signing up for. So, in the future, looking forward, if they go past any of these limits, I can very easily have a conversation about moving them up a level or maybe moving them down a level if that's more appropriate for them. I have different prices on these different things, and I want those prices to be justified. I want the client to understand, if they were to pay $2,000 more a month, like what are they getting? Like what am I providing for them? As well, in this proposal, I have kind of like a billing structure, as I kind of mentioned earlier. So I have some stuff that's going to be billed every single month. I have some stuff that's a one-time project, like a website build in this example. And I've also added in some add-ons to this proposal experience. So we're going to build the website. That's kind of part of the package, no matter what they choose. But do they want to add on, like, my translation services to kind of reach a wider audience? That's an add-on they can choose. So the key here, like I mentioned, clearly defined services, clearly defined billing schedule, the ability to make their selections, the ability to kind of tell me what they want in a nice, interactive way. So let's make a selection here. Let's choose the middle package. Now I go through and I kind of have even more of the real detailed nitty-gritty of the kind of engagement. So again, really clearly defined scope of services, quantifiable deliverables, all the things I need to have a nice rock solid contract that goes with this. Is every single client going to read every single detail? You're going to know your clients better than I do, but having it written down is really, really crucial because I might need to reference this later. I might need my team to reference this later to know exactly what work they're doing when they're setting up, tasks and stuff like that. So very, very important to kind of have this sort of detail. Like I mentioned, this proposal has an additional add-on. So that's my one extra service, the translation services. So just easily they can click a button, add it into their larger package. Then based on all that stuff, they have a full pricing schedule. So again, simplified, broken down, one single page. So they know what they're paying for and when. And then this is the part that I really, really love is payment is kind of directly integrated into this platform. So, and you'll notice big old red required. I'm not even going to let my client sign this engagement, agree to all these things, choose their package, unless they're actually going to put their payment details down and pay for it. I already have a couple payment methods in here because I was testing this out earlier, but if they didn't, the client would basically pop in, add an additional payment method, just like a nice, easy checkout experience. I'm removing all the barriers for them. Shouldn't be any more complicated than buying something on Amazon. And we even support, like US bank accounts and ACH and stuff like that. Another cool little thing I have here is optional, but I also charge an extra little surcharge for when people pay credit cards. I want to give clients options, but I don't want to get hit super, super hard on payment processing fees. So I just charge a little bit extra when someone, wants to use their fancy Amex. So again, I make that required. So they need to have a payment applied, which is super, super helpful. And then lastly, I just kind of have all those extra kind of engagement terms and conditions. Maybe you have something like this already on your website, terms of service. Maybe you don't. This is the kind of stuff you can just get from your lawyer. This can even just be the rules of the road. So, those are your services, but this is how we're going to work together. This is going to be how we dictate what we're doing together. This is how, the relationship is going to work. I can't stress how important it is to have a document like this, whether it's a super long one, like I said, that your insurance gives you 15 pages. If your insurance says to use it, you should definitely use it. And if you don't have that, and as I said, it's just one page that dictates how you protect your time, protect your relationship with your team, rules of the road, as I always call them, very, very important to have it. And just like that, the client can sign right here. They can agree with a legally binding signature to the engagement itself. So they've added their payment, they've made their service selection, they've reviewed all of my terms and conditions, they've accepted. Boom, I have a legally binding contract with this client now. I can start doing work feeling very, very comfortable that everything is going to go smooth. And lastly, again, leveraging those videos, leveraging the tools I have available to me. I have a little video at the end. So if I do have work that needs to get done right away as soon as they sign, I can be telling the client about it. Or maybe it's just, a process I need to introduce them to, even have some links in here for some resources that they might need. I'm thinking about the full process, start to finish. I'm thinking about them having the professional experience, having it nice and clearly defined, including payments in this, and then again, making this a scalable process so the client can actually start working with me afterwards. So hopefully that was really, really helpful, and you can see how some of those kind of key aspects that I mentioned can be applied to an actual proposal experience. And again, those takeaways can be applied in any tool or any process that you're building at your agency. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Matt, who's going to showcase a little bit about Asana for managing projects for success.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Evan. Getting the client on board now that you've done all that is really an exciting part, right? You've got your proposal signed, you've got the scope clear, everyone's aligned on what needs to be done, but we all know that the real work really starts then once the project kicks in. So today I want to walk you through how to move from that planning process, from planning to actually progress, hopefully with less stress, more clarity, and some more confidence to make sure that everything's on track. So let's start with what's not working today. If you don't mind going to the next slide, you've probably seen something like this if you were like me, a spreadsheet that's tracking all of the work surrounded by pings, emails, docs, meetings. There is so much work that's happening, but it is scattered. It's hard to find what you need, hard to find where things stand, and it's even harder to feel like you are in control of this. And that's the problem that we see all the time. And the root of it is coordination. If you go to the next slide, it's not that your team doesn't have the tools. Double click, there we go. It's not that your team doesn't have all the tools, it's that none of them give you one place to actually coordinate all of that work. The gap between the content tools on the left, the communication tools on the right, that is where Asana fits into the picture here. Asana is where you can plan, you can assign, track, and actually move the work forward. And I don't just say that from the Asana side. I work with agencies and service partners like many of you all the time. And when I'm the client, I want to feel like the team has it handled. Like I don't need to follow up or wonder what in the world is going on. So let me show you what exactly that looks like inside Asana. You can see here, it is more than just a project plan. It is the starting point for coordinating everything in one place, whether it be the tasks, the files, deadlines, conversations, contributors. When all of that work is in one place, everything else becomes easier. There's no more chasing information. There's no more scattered updates. This becomes your team's source of truth and ultimately the foundation for more clarity within your organization. If you go to the next slide, Asana also gives you flexibility in how you view the work. You can switch between lists, boards, timelines, whatever works best for you and your team. So if you want a structure and you like structure, use a list. If you think more visually like some of us, you can use a board. There is no more recreating that plan. You can just choose the view that fits best for you and your team and how you work. If you go to the next slide, every task in Asana, just like this one, is more than just the to-do. You can attach files, you can track conversations, you can keep all of that context in one place. So whether you're reviewing a draft, you're giving feedback, you're asking a question, it is all connected to the work. And that keeps your team focused, and it also keeps your clients looped into what's going on every step of the way. If you go to the next slide, you can also add dependencies. So you see an example of that here to make handoffs seamless. So let's say your team can't move forward until a stakeholder signs off on something. You can assign those approvals, mark the next step as blocked, and Asana will hold that work until it's ready. So once everything's approved, that next task, it kicks off automatically. So all things keep moving without anyone actually needing to follow up. If you go to the next slide, one of the biggest challenges that I hear from people is, hey, Matt, we are busy, but we don't know where all the bottlenecks are. Well, with workload in Asana, you can actually get a clear view of what every person on your team is doing and what their capacity is. You can spot overload early, you can rebalance tasks before things fall behind. And even for longer term planning, you can forecast across teams and projects. This helps you not just to work smarter, but it also helps you to make sure that no one is burning out and nothing is getting dropped. If you go to the next slide, we also have portfolios, and portfolios help you organize your work at that higher level. I want you to think of them like smart folders for everything that matters, whether it be client projects, retainers, internal initiatives. This gives you a bird's eye view of what's on track, what's at risk, and what needs attention. And when I'm the client, because I've been there many times, seeing this type of organization ultimately builds trust for me that this agency, this partner that I'm working with knows what's going on. If you go to the next slide. So when your team logs in, they land here in My Tasks. It shows them exactly what they need to work on today. And this is how your team can stay clear and accountable. There is no more guessing, no more pinging for updates. This ensures that everyone on your side knows what's expected and when they need to do it. If you go to the next slide, one thing that I also love here is Asana makes it easy to collaborate on things like creative work. So you can open a doc, click on the image as you see here, and leave comments or suggestions just like this. And what I also love is that you can invite your client not as part of your seats. So you can bring as many guests as you want into the task as a guest so that everything stays in one place. It is cleaner for your team and it makes you look even more buttoned up to your clients. If you go to the next slide, now once something is ready for approval, your client can give a thumbs up, or they can say, hey, I want some changes, or they can reject it. And it keeps everything right in the task where all the work is being done. It's just one click and Asana takes care of the rest. It can even send you a Slack message when it's approved so that your team can keep things moving. If you go to the next slide, one thing that I absolutely love is that Asana connects you with all the tools that you're already using. So Zoom, Slack, Microsoft Teams, Gmail, Salesforce, all of those and many more. We have so many integrations, but what you're seeing here is Asana embedded into, for an example, a Zoom call. You can take notes, you can assign action items, you can create clear next steps, all during the meeting when you're having it with the client. And then after the call, one thing that I'm really excited about is now with AI, you can pull in the transcript automatically. AI will do that for you, and it'll even recommend the follow-up items based on that transcript, so you don't have to do that. It is an even better way to keep that momentum up after the meetings. I just added this to my calls, and it has been fantastic. You can also keep up with your clients and keep them updated right in Asana. So, clients want to know where the work is, what's going on. You can post a status update, you can tag them, and they will see exactly where things stand at any given point of time. So there's no more extra recaps. There's no chasing updates. It maybe even eliminates some of the catch-ups that you have to do in person. It keeps everyone informed without that extra effort. But let us be honest. I know that your team does not love writing these updates. I don't love writing them myself. So if you go to the next slide, that's where Smart Status comes in. It can actually use AI to help you draft the first version of this update because all of that work is in there and it uses that real-time data. So you can generate it with AI, you review it, you make any tweaks, you hit send. It is fast, it is accurate, and it's far less painful for your team to get these status updates out. If you go to the next slide, you can also talk to Asana AI just like a teammate. So you can ask questions like what's overdue this week, or maybe you want to say which deliverables are at risk. Asana will give you instant answers through AI chat, plus smart suggestions on what to do next. It's not just AI for the sake of it. It's AI that can actually help you to move the work forward and understand what's going on at any given point in time. If you go to the next slide, We've also launched a new thing called AI Studio. It is our no-code workflow builder, and you can take things even further. So say here in this example, you upload a launch deck, Asana can assign the tier, pick the right channels, draft the brief, all in one workflow. That's typically things that take hours of coordination or work, and you can automate all of that now with AI in just seconds. It is perfect for repeatable processes in research or taking a first stab at something where every single minute of your team's time matters. So if you go to my last slide here, this is what it all adds up to. Whether you are managing 3 clients, or let's say you have 30 or 60 or 90, the goal is all the same. You want to keep the work moving, you want to keep your clients happy, and you want to keep your team out of the chaos. With Asana, you can get the clarity to know what is happening and when. You can get the confidence that nothing is slipping through the cracks, and you can keep the momentum to keep things progressing with without all of the friction that you face today with so many of those different spread out tools all over the place. So with that, Evan, I'll turn it back over to you. And you're probably on mute.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Matt. Really, really appreciate that. Really some useful insights and learn a lot about, how to, the kind of strategies around delivering really, really great work using Asana. So now that we've kind of looked at what I would consider a pretty complete process from all the way started the proposal, like I started with, through to the project delivery and doing that efficiently and doing that really, really effectively. But your business doesn't stop there. You've done, let's say there's some work you've agreed to, you've got it all done. You want to execute a great year, but if you're anything like the business that I regularly work with, your ambition should be longer term, right? Like you want to, do things great year over year over year. So it's important to continue to think about all of your processes and how they're going to support your long-term success. And that's what we'll talk about next. So thinking back to that initial proposal and contract, remember I emphasized clear and well-defined payment terms. I really hammered that home. On one level, important for client expectations, right? I said, it's going to make it easier to get paid if the client knows what they're supposed to pay you. But on another level, if you kind of complement that with, all these really good right systems that you have in place, it'll simplify how you bill when you're done the actual work. So that might mean, automating the final invoicing based off of, the work getting done. Maybe it's just, sending an invoice to get reviewed, but having a process to make sure that gets done efficiently. So my goal always, whether it's right up front when they sign the proposal, or if they're paying when the work is done, or if they're paying on a monthly or quarterly schedule, I need to eliminate as many barriers as I can to prevent my clients from paying me. So I don't have, collect a bunch of AR that I need to chase down and spend hours to do. And in Ignition, that usually looks like, just charging as soon as the work is done. We agreed about it. It was in the contract. I said, you're going to pay me when it's completed. Work is done. I'm just going to charge you. That's usually what it looks like. But as well, like I mentioned, as the work kind of goes on, we had a really nice defined scope, but we know service scope, it's never static. That's not how things work in the real world. If you're working with a client month over month on a long project, or maybe it's a client you work with every single month because that's the job that you're doing for them. I do emphasize it's important to kind of consistently revisit that original agreement and assess, when adjustments might be needed to the work that you're doing in the scope. So this means regularly scheduled check-ins where you're going to review the work that has been done against the work that you agreed to. And this is a really easy task to add into some of the work templates you have in Asana, to whether that's on a monthly or quarterly basis. And importantly, because you're tracking everything, don't lose track of those discrepancies because they're going to add up. Maybe you feel like, it's just one time thing, I can let it slide. Keep track of it because out of there, it's going to come up again. So when that extra stuff comes up, it's it's usually a good thing. Client needs you to do more work. That's awesome. But it's only a good thing if you know it's happening. And it's only a good thing if you're able to actually get paid for that extra work that they ask for. So in Ignition, that usually means raising ad hoc invoices, outside maybe the regular schedule that they've been paying you, or maybe it just means adding some extra charges to the client's automatic monthly billing. That can take a few different forms, but make sure you're getting paid for that extra work that you're doing. That's absolutely crucial. And building off of that, what happens if that one-off extra stuff, one or two things, kind of just becomes every month extra stuff. So, like a good example of this, maybe your client required, has required more one-on-one support. Maybe their business has actually fully grown to require more resources. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe the work is simplified. Maybe the has shrunk and you need to adjust. Because you did a good job upfront defining your scope initially, quantifiables, all those sorts of things. And because you've done such a good job managing the project as it happens and your whole team is, well communicated across and you know what's going on, one, it should be really easy internally to understand what changes are actually needed to the client's scope of work and the projects. And it should be easier externally to communicate to the client what changes are necessary for their ongoing service. No one's in the dark. Like the client's not surprised to hear that it's been more work than they initially agreed on. Your team is not doing a lot of extra work and you don't know about it. Everyone's on the same page. So when you time to review a contract or renew an engagement with a client, you have all the right evidence and to actually say, hey, we need to move your monthly fee up $1,000. We need to move you from the growth, from the second plan to the third plan. Those conversations can be a lot easier. So, I always see example, you said you were going to meet once a month to track our process. Evidently, we've been meeting more often. So let's move you on to our higher package that includes biweekly meetings, right? You refer back to their initial agreement. This is what we signed. You can see it pretty clearly here. It's a much easier conversation than, just trying to, if it wasn't written down somewhere initially. So to wrap up here, just a couple key takeaways I'd love to kind of leave you with here today from some of the insights we brought up. Build that client trust nice and early. Establish scalable processes. It's no use doing something if you can do it really well once, but you can't do it again. It's not that good. Systemize the work. Keep track of everything and build a structured system. Make payments easy for your clients and for you, also crucial. And then plan for renewal and continue to monitor that scope of those engagements as you go regularly and with consistency. So a couple key takeaways I hope that you'll find useful. And with that, I'd love to jump in. We have a couple questions here that I think we can read out. We have some free time. So if you do have any other questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A. We'll go through a couple here right now. So just reading some of the Q&A questions here. Matt, looks like this one's probably going to be for you. So for Asana, is like, what are some of the most common client-facing workflows that you see professional service teams using, running in Asana?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say one of the ones that I think, or is probably most common, is managing retainer-based work, right? So teams would use what I showed as a portfolio, maybe to group all of their active client projects, and then maybe create a standard project templates for things like onboarding or weekly deliverables, or maybe it's a campaign launch or even monthly reporting. Another one that I've seen before as well is creative feedback cycles, maybe where Asana is bringing all the stakeholders, all the comments, all the final files, like I showed you, into one place so that there's no chasing down feedback, maybe across emails or even PDFs. And then another one that I've seen before as well is using Asana to help you manage scope changes and even QBRs, like what you talked about at the very end. So tracking the decisions that are made, backlogging requests, prepping talking points for review meetings, all things that are internal within the client, and being able to do that within all one platform. So it's easy and you're able to find it and connect it to all of the other work that's already happening. So, whether it's that day-to-day or even those like really key critical client moments, Asana can act as that coordination layer and make sure that everything's moving smoothly.
Awesome. This next one, I think I'll take this next one, Matt, but cool. You have so it sounds like I have an existing design team. I have assets that I use for proposals in that process. And, would you benefit from Ignition? So that's a really fun one because I've dealt with this many times. So two aspects. One, if you have a design team, I can't imagine their main job is to build proposals. That's probably part of their job. So generally speaking, I hear from people, they can build really good proposals. They can build really good, client experiences. But again, it's at scale. Can you do that at scale? So do you want your team spending all of their time, just building proposal decks? Do you want doing all that? Like I said, if you want to ever do a marketing push, you ever want to kind of bring on lots of people, lots of clients at once, like, are you going to be able to do that at scale? So that's where, a tool to kind of help you do aspects of that would really, really benefit. And then on the flip side of that as well, maybe that isn't a concern. Maybe you're like, I'm not trying to get a million clients. I just have a few clients and they're really important. So I want to spend time on them. There's some pretty cool tools in Ignition for leveraging those your existing design team, existing assets. So like I mentioned, building custom landing pages to really wow and blow the client away. You have the ability to like embed, custom PDF documents if you have a whole really cool project plan, videos, all the kind of existing design assets you already have usually fit very nicely. So if you want to take your time and go slow and use everything you already have and leverage it, I think it works really, really well, regardless. Cool. This next question I think will be for you, Matt. So how do you recommend bringing clients into Asana without them being overwhelmed?
Yeah, it's a great question. And honestly, this is the one that I hear probably the most. Look, the good news is this. Clients don't have to be power users. Most teams can just invite them into a single project that's relevant to their work, like a campaign or maybe a retainer tracker or a creative review flow. And from there, they can check the progress, they can leave feedback, they can approve the deliverables. And because Asana is incredibly intuitive, I am telling you that your clients will just get it. We hear this all the time across industries, no matter who anyone is. They see the structure, it makes sense to them, and they're really off and running. In fact, I think it's really common for clients oftentimes to say, hey, we would love to know how we can get this within our company. In fact, as I said from the beginning, previously I worked at American Airlines, I worked at McKesson. I brought Asana to both of those companies because it was so easy and it just made sense for us. That said, I think going back to what you talked about earlier, Evan, you talked about making sure that people get it and making sure that the clients understand. I think it still helps to ease them in and to think about the experience. Maybe a quick walkthrough or even a short video could really go a long way in making them feel confident. And then, whether they check in every day or maybe it's just once a week or on a task by task basis, the client can really always see the same thing ultimately, that you are on top of that. And that's going to help to build the trust ultimately that you want to build with your clients.
Awesome. And I imagine you can just scale it up as necessary, right? So the clients that are a little more averse, just show them what you need to show them. And I'm sure you're going to run into some clients who are like super excited. And you're like, cool, let's give you more as you want it.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right, one more question here. So how does Asana and Ignition work together? So that's actually a really fun one because that's something I work with some customers. So no direct integration between Asana and Ignition, but what I've seen a lot of the customers and users that I work with is they leverage Zapier. So if you're not familiar with Zapier, it's a really cool tool that helps a lot of different platforms connect together. So really cool Zap I've seen a lot of the kind of customers I've worked with who do use Asana and Ignition is they set up a really cool automation so that when a proposal gets signed, it will create a whole work template of things over on the Asana side according to, a little bit of characteristics. What services are on that proposal that can automate a specific work template. So it can something as easy as a service on your proposal called like new client onboarding. Awesome. We generate the new client onboarding template in Asana, lets notifies the right people. Maybe it automatically sends tasks over to the client if necessary. So it can be a really cool flow. It's not super complicated to set up. I've done it 100 times. So that's probably the one that comes to mind right away. But obviously, I think as we talked about throughout the call here, there's so much kind of crossover between the two platforms. Being on top of the work, keeping track of the projects and stuff like that is so crucial if you want to be able to re-engage with people. It's so crucial if you want to charge someone money, you better be able to show them that you're doing the work. So I think the two fit in parallel, like in so many amazing ways.